homepage. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Browse about, support zip. Search there! Entry contents, bibliography, academic tools, friends PDF preview, author and citation info. Back to top, Physicalism, first published 2 Feb 13, 2001, substantive revision 2 May 2121. Physicalism is, in slogan form, the thesis that everything is physical. The thesis is usually intended as a metaphysical thesis, parallel to the thesis attributed to the ancient Greek philosopher Thales, that everything is water, or the idealism of the 18th century philosopher Berkeley, that everything is mental. The general idea is that the nature of the actual world conforms to a certain condition, the condition of being physical. Of course, physicalists don't deny that the world might contain many items that at first glance don't seem physical, items of a biological or psychological or moral or social or mathematical nature. But they insist nevertheless that at the end of the day such items are physical, or at least bear an important relation to the physical. 1 preliminaries, 1.2 historical issues, 1.3 a framework for discussion, 2 completeness question, 2.1 supervenience and necessity physicalism, 2.2 identity physicalism, 2.21 token physicalism, 2.21 type physicalism, 2.3 realization physicalism, 2.32 subset physicalism, 2.4 grounding on physicalism, 2.5 fundamentality physicalism, 3 varieties of physicalism. Reductive and non-reductive physicalism, through priori and a posteriori physicalism, through condition question. For 1 then, theory and object conceptions of the physical. For 2 circularity. For 3 Hempel's dilemma. For 4 the panpsychism problem. 4-5 the via negativa. 4.6 structuralist approaches. 4.7 physicalism as an attitude. 5 the case against physicalism. To 5.1 qualia and consciousness. 5.2 meaning and intentionality. 5.3 numbers and abstracta. 5.4 methodological issues. 6 the case for physicalism. Bibliography, academic tools, other internet resources. The theory and objective cells into the physical. 4.2 circularity. 4.3 Hempel's dilemma. 4.4 the panpsychism problem. 4.5 the via negativa. 4.6 structuralist approaches. 4 confederate physicalism as an attitude. 5 the case against physicalism. 5.1 qualia and consciousness. 5.2 meaning and intentionality. 5.3 numbers and then abstracta. 5.4 methodological issues. 6 the case for physicalism. Bibliography, academic tools, other internet resources, related entries. 1 preliminaries, 1 terminology. terminology. Physicalism is sometimes known as materialism. Indeed, on one strand, to contemporary usage, the terms physicalism and materialism are interchangeable, but the two terms have very different histories. The word materialism appears in English towards the end of the 17th century, but the word physicalism was introduced into philosophy only in the 1930s by Otto Neurath and Rudolf Carnap, both of whom were key members of the Vienna Circle, a group of philosophers, scientists, and mathematicians active in Vienna prior to World War II. While it is not clear, Neurath and Carnap understood physicalism in the same way. One thesis, often attributed to, is the linguistic thesis. Every stasis, every is the linguistic thesis. Every statement is synonymous with IE is equivalent and meaningless. Some physical statement, but materialism prostitution delete history. The force to face this is not a linguistic thesis at all. Rather, it is a metaphysical thesis in the sense that it tells us about the nature of the world. At least for the positivists. Therefore, there was a clear reason in distinguishing physicalism, linguisticus, to Physicalism was compounded by the fact that, according to official positivist doctrine, metaphysics is nonsense since the 1930s. However, the positivist philosophy that undergirded this distinction has for the most part been rejected. For example, physicalism is not a linguistic thesis for contemporary philosophers. This is one reason why the words materialism and physicalism are now often interpreted as interchangeable. Some philosophers suggest that physicalism is distinct from materialism for a reason quite unrelated to the one emphasized by Neurath and Carnap. As the name suggests, materialists historically held that everything was matter, where matter was conceived as an inert, senseless substance, which extension, figure, and motion do actually subsist. Berkeley blicks off. But physics itself has shown that not everything is matter in this sense. For example, forces such as gravity are physical, but it is not clear that they are material in the traditional sense. So it is tempting to use physicalism to distance oneism, to distance oneself from what seems historically important, but no longer scientifically relevant thesis. The formalism only believes to this. This is a contention, it's the pheasants in the because some things are never not physical, nothing. It's certainly usual on the metaphysical tendencies and being associated with a current and both for the science. It's doing factual, trying the lack of English. This is a good reason for calling it physicalism rather than materialism. But one thing, beneficial or physicalists do, in fact, use the word materialism in actual doctrine. The one river of physicalism is the one believer of physicism. Physically active for physical objects. The term is very close and concludes with material object, and via that, with matter. In this entry, I will adopt the policy of using both terms interchangeably, though I will typically refer to the thesis we will discuss as physicalism. It is important to note that physicalism, aka naturalism, is often associated with a number of further doctrines distinct from the one we will focus on. For a discussion of some of these, see the supplement on physicalism and associated doctrines. Veltoi thesis Physicalism. Of physical law, free self-described as it's more than wide as in feeling only the 80% when he said, allegedly said, all is atoms in the void as you cast a long shadow between the formulations of physicalism. A physician like that of Democritus was revived in the early lefty modern period just prior to Newton by philosophers and scientists such as Hobbes or Gassendi in the 18th century. French philosophers like the Hobocanetry thought of themselves as materialists and would be now classified as physicalists, somewhat in the same way since they held that each human being is a complicated sort of machine in the 18th century, while Karl Marx diverged to materialism as something different from the metaphysical thesis we will focus on. He nevertheless associates social philosophy against the background of what we would call physicalism. In fact, Marx's doctoral dissertation was a comparison of Democritus and Epicurus. In the 20th century, analytic philosophers such as Smart and Lewis self-consciously defended their views in a way that acknowledges, as Lewis put it, our intellectual ancestors. However, while there's certainly something in common here, the underlying historical issues are extremely complicated, since they involve subtle questions of scientific and philosophical change. We won't discuss them in detail in this entry. It is worth emphasis, though, that we should be careful in lumping different people in different epochs together. The precise views they held are often different from one another. As we noted above, and as Lang himself emphasizes, Newton did not think that even in the physical world, all is atoms in the void, since for him there are also forces such as gravity. It follows that any post-Newtonian philosophers who think of themselves as physicalists must have a different thesis in mind from Democritus. What are 3A framework for discussion? In approaching the topic of physicalism, one may dish what I will call the interpretation question from the truth question. The interpretation that everything is physical. The hardest question asks. It is true to say that everything is physical. It is obviously a sense in which the second question presupposes an answer to the first. You need to know what a statement means before you can ask whether it's true. And so we will begin with the interpretation question. Presentation question itself will have to choose a sub-question, which I will call the condition question, the completeness question, the condition question. And asks is what does only have to satisfy the period one's master the sake of thinking physics isn't what every physical isn't otherwise dude. When I heard the completeness question holds fixed the issue of what it means for something to be physical, and asks instead what relation or relations or condition call it physical and physical. But it asks instead what relation or relations obtain between every good done to the physical and physical. It's just a basic need to be what is some condition what it means for something to be physical. In other words, the completeness question holds fixed the issue of what it means for something to be physical. Asks instead what relationship you call the vision to the justification assuming we know what condition you have to satisfy to be water, what does it mean to say that everything satisfies that condition? Discuss the completeness question. Usually on the rest of the condition question. The moment to do question. That's what I mean to get to which you are. Once again, there is a sense in which the second question here presupposes an answer to the first. You need to know what it is for something to be physical in order to assess different proposals about the relation everything bears to the physical. Nevertheless,
It is easier from a presentational point of view to discuss the completeness question first, leaving our answer to the condition question for the moment impressionistic, and that will be our procedure.